Wrong Turn 6, Last Resort, 2014, opens in the eerie West Virginia wilderness with a young couple Nick and Daria stumbling upon a secluded hot spring for a romantic getaway. Unfortunately, their moment of intimacy is violently shattered when Nick is shot with an arrow and Daria is seized by the twisted mutated inbred cannibal's three-finger sawtooth and one eye, marking a grim beginning filled with horror and bloodshed. The scene then shifts to Danny, a young man who has just discovered he has inherited an old resort named Hobb Springs. He travels there with his friends, including his girlfriend Tony and best buddy Vic, joking about the potential state of the inheritance, suggesting everything from a decrepit motel to a hidden meth lab. Upon their arrival, they are confronted with a sprawling decrepit mansion that exudes an unsettling atmosphere. They are soon welcomed by Jackson and Sally, the resort's caretakers, who claim to be Danny's long-lost relatives. The caretakers treat Danny like royalty, insisting they have awaited his return, which raises suspicions among his friends, while Danny feels an alluring pull towards belonging. As the night unfolds, the group experiences strange occurrences. They discover portraits of Danny's ancestors, all sharing a striking resemblance to him. The caretakers insist on isolated moments with Danny, further unsettling the group. Strange noises and suspicious movements disturb their rest, but they dismiss these eerie happenings as typical for an old house. Two of Danny's friends, Brian and Jillian, venture off to investigate the mansion further. Their exploration leads them to hidden tunnels brimming with macabre artifacts such as rusty medical instruments and skeletal remains. They stumble upon a secret chamber where inbred mutants voyeuristically observe sexual acts, a grotesque revelation of Hobb Springs' dark history of twisted rituals and incestuous breeding. Their discovery culminates in horror when Jillian is brutally murdered while Brian is captured by the cannibals. Amidst these unfolding horrors, Danny's demeanor gradually transforms as he begins to embrace his family's sinister traditions, intrigued by the unsettling legacy. As the narrative progresses, Danny grapples with his connection to the resort and the darkness that lurks within his lineage, escalating the tension and horror that defines the film. The chilling atmosphere, combined with the grotesque actions of the inbred cannibals and Danny's internal struggle, sets the stage for a terrifying descent into a world where family ties come with horrific consequences. Danny's journey begins when he is introduced to a secret society by Jackson and Sally, who advocate for a world driven by pure bloodlines. They manipulate him by insisting that his destiny lies within this ideology, pressuring him to sever ties with his old life and friends. To strengthen their control, they drug him, inducing hallucinations that further entrench him in their belief system. Meanwhile, Danny's friends grow increasingly concerned, sensing something is amiss with his behavior. Among his friends, Tony stands out as the most perceptive. She recognizes the danger surrounding Danny and desperately urges him to leave with her. However, Danny refuses, having been seduced by the promises of his newfound family. As the narrative unfolds, a brutal turn of events occurs. The cannibals begin hunting down Danny's remaining friends. Vic faces a gruesome fate, being disemboweled while trying to escape, and Charlie suffers an even more horrific ordeal, being tied to a table and burned alive. These violent incidents highlight Danny's disturbing transformation as he becomes indifferent to the suffering of those he once held dear. Ultimately, Jackson demands that Danny proves his loyalty to the bloodline by killing Tony, whom he has come to love. In a harrowing moment of conflict, Tony, now tied up, pleads with him to break free from the cult's influence and escape with her. Despite his initial hesitation, a chilling change occurs when Danny fully embraces the murderous ethos of his adopted family and kills Tony. This act signifies not only the murder of his beloved but also represents the severing of his final connection to his past life, marking a pivotal moment in his descent into darkness. Danny begins as an ordinary man lacking any deep ties to his past due to his adoption. Driven by a desire for belonging, he becomes increasingly drawn to his heritage, though initially hesitating to accept it. However, with the gradual manipulation of Jackson and Sally, he ultimately succumbs to their insidious influence. His transformation culminates with the act of killing Tony, sealing his fate as the leader of the Hilliker bloodline. The initially relatable protagonist becomes a tragic villain, losing all semblance of morality in the process. Contrastingly, Tony serves as the moral compass in Danny's life, representing reason and love amid chaos. Her attempts to save Danny are noble as she recognizes the peril he faces. Tragically, her demise at Danny's hands underscores his complete moral failure and the overpowering nature of evil, leaving no doubt that all hope for redemption has been extinguished. Together, Danny and Tony symbolize the profound conflict between humanity and darkness, with Danny's tragic transformation echoing the theme of loss, corruption, and ultimate surrender to malevolence. Jackson and Sally, the manipulative siblings. Jackson emerges as the calm, persuasive leader within his twisted family, often speaking in riddles that enhance his enigmatic persona. In contrast, Sally plays the role of the seductive and devoted sister, acting as the bait to ensnare Danny into their insidious ways. Their ultimate aim is to convince Danny of his predestined duty to perpetuate the family bloodline, sowing doubt about the true nature of outsiders whom they label as adversaries. By the conclusion of their manipulative endeavor, Jackson and Sally triumph as their psychological tactics prove stronger than Danny's intrinsic morality. They are emblematic of brainwashing and cult-like devotion to figures who do not perceive themselves as malevolent but rather as guardians of their archaic lifestyle. Vic, Brian, and Jillian, friends who never stood a chance. In stark contrast to the Hillikers, Vic, Brian, and Jillian serve as representations of individuals ill-suited for this perilous world. Vic's attempt to escape leads to his swift demise, while Brian and Jillian succumb to their insatiable curiosity, ultimately resulting in their deaths. The trio remains oblivious to the true danger surrounding them until it becomes tragically too late, rendering them easy targets for the cannibals. Their fates underscore the notion that outsiders are disposable within the Hillikers' worldview. If one fails to conform, they are inevitably marked for death. What the movie really represents: the horror of bloodlines and family loyalty. Wrong Turn 6 delves deeper into the franchise's established themes, particularly the inbred cannibal concept, by highlighting how Danny's lineage seals his tragic fate from birth. This mirrors the existential dread of inherited evil, an exploration of whether an individual can break free from their origins or is destined to relive them. Brainwashing and cult mentality. The Hillikers embody a cult-like structure, persuading Danny that his past life holds no value. They utilize psychological manipulation, drugs, and rituals to isolate him from his friends and previous life. This approach serves as a reflection of how extremist factions lure individuals by instilling a sense of belonging and importance. The corruption of power and privilege. Hobb Springs stands as a representation of opulence, yet it is built upon a foundation of incest, violence, and suffering spanning centuries. Danny is bestowed with every luxury imaginable, a mansion, wealth, and a fabricated family, but all at the cost of his humanity. This illustrates how power can obscure moral judgment, leading individuals to rationalize horrific acts. Ultimately, this film subverts typical horror tropes, revealing the ramifications when a protagonist does not resist the darkness but rather succumbs to and accepts the horror around them. Unanswered questions and theories. Possible future of the franchise. Will Danny become worse than his ancestors? Danny has taken the helm of the Hillikers, thus harboring the potential to be more menacing than both Jackson and Sally. With his understanding of contemporary tactics, he might enhance the family's ability to conceal their nefarious deeds. A sequel could see him evolving into the principal antagonist, transforming Hobb Springs into a trap specifically designed for unknowing victims. Did any of his friends survive? The narrative implies that all of Danny's friends have perished, although the film does not present definitive evidence of some deaths, leaving room for speculation. Should a follow-up film be produced, the reappearance of one of Danny's friends seeking vengeance could serve as an intriguing plot twist. Are there more Hillikers hidden in the mountains? Jackson notes the Hillikers' history of being part of a broader family network, suggesting the potential existence of other inbred factions concealed within the mountains. This opens avenues for future plotlines centered around discovering these undisclosed clans. Final thoughts. What makes Wrong Turn 6 stand out? Unique character dynamics. Notably, Wrong Turn 6 distinguishes itself in the series as it deviates from the conventional narrative structure where the main character typically fights back against evil. In a stark contrast, Danny ultimately aligns himself with the villains, which brings forth a potent theme of betrayal. Psychological depth. This installment delves into profound psychological horror, shedding light on themes such as brainwashing, familial pressure, and identity crises. The story navigates the murky waters of self-identity as characters grapple with their inherent darkness. A disturbing conclusion. The film's conclusion presents a grim reality, suggesting that evil may at times triumph. This departure from more action-driven scenarios renders Wrong Turn 6 one of the most distinctive entries in the franchise, albeit lacking in frenetic action. The ending. The new leader of the Hillikers. In a chilling finale, all of Danny's former friends are dead, leading him to embrace his role within the twisted family. As the film closes, Danny is depicted welcoming new guests to Hobb Springs, his ominous smile hinting at a somber continuation of the gruesome cycle of attraction and elimination of outsiders. Final thoughts. The darkest ending in the franchise. In contrast to earlier Wrong Turn films where protagonists typically strive for escape, this film culminates in a haunting resolution, revealing Danny's complete immersion among the villains. His journey embodies a narrative of corruption. He transitions from an everyday person to an individual consumed by darkness due to his family's influence. The exploration of identity and destiny in light of such coercive familial ties renders this story particularly unsettling and thought-provoking. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.